Hello students, this chapter is from the history book of class 6 and the number of chapters chapter 7. The title of the chapter goes like Ashoka the Emperor who gave up war. So the title of the chapter itself raises a curiosity in our minds that why would some emperor stop fighting the war? Because as per the nature of emperor, for the expansion of their empire, they need to wage wars, they need to make conquests so that they can expand more and more. But here we see the very opposite nature. So as we will proceed with the chapter, we will explore, we will try to find out what happened that Ashoka gave up war. So before we proceed with the chapter, here are few terms that you need to know. Kingdom. So what's a kingdom? Kingdom is a territory which is under the control and authority of a king or a queen. Usually in the kingdom there is no democracy, the monarchical form of government runs there, and usually it is headed by, like I said, some king or queen. Next is an empire. An empire, as you can see, is a very big kingdom. An empire may extend through thousands squares of kilometers of area. Like there are various empires. You must have heard about Mauryan Empire, then there was Mughal Empire, Gupta Empire, like that. Now, dynasty. The word dynasty means that when the rulers are from the same family, like some king ruled over a kingdom, then after him his son ruled over the same kingdom, then his grandson was ruling over the kingdom. So this pattern, when the members from the same family rule the same kingdom or empire over and over again, we call that family a dynasty. So Mauryan dynasty ruled 2300 years ago, and it was founded by Chandragupta Maurya with the help of his mentor and minister Chanakya. Chandragupta Maurya defeated the last ruler of Nanda dynasty from the throne of Magad to acquire the Mauryan Empire. And after him, the kingdom was ruled by his son Bindusar, and the son of Bindusar, Ashoka the Great, who was the greatest emperor of Mauryan Empire, was the successor. So we can see that Mauryan dynasty ruled the Mauryan Empire from the same member of a family. So this is an example of dynasty. Now we look at the important cities of Mauryan Empire. Patliputra. Patliputra is Patna in modern times. Patna was called Patliputra in ancient times. Patliputra was the capital city of Mauryan Empire. That is, the emperor of Mauryan Empire used to rule from Patliputra. Then there is Takshila. Takshila was provincial capital. Actually the empire was too huge and too big that it was not possible to rule the empire from one capital. So the whole empire was divided into various provinces, and each province had their own capital. So Takshila was the provincial capital of one such province, and Takshila was important because it was gateway to the northwest, including the Central Asia. Also, you must have heard about Takshila University, Nalanda University. So Takshila had this academic importance also. The third one is Ujjain city. It was also a provincial capital, a capital of some province which lay on the route of north to south India. While going from north to south India, Ujjain was an important center. And these cities, well, these are not all the cities, important cities. The cities were inhabited by mainly the merchants, officials, craftsmen. Mainly the urban population used to live in these cities, while rest of the population used to reside in villages and forests, etc. Apart from the cities, the empire had villages, and villages were occupied by farmers and herders, same as in the times of present. Usually farming and animal domestication is done in villages, and they must be supplying the food supplies and other important things to the cities. So villages were occupied by farmers, herders, those who domesticated animals. Then there was Central India. Central India had mainly forests And of course, a lot of tribes used to live in such forests, and the people of those tribes gathered forest produce, that is the food provided from forests or other important things of daily use that the forest provides. So people used to gather those forest produces, and also the tribal people who lived in forest hunted for animal food, the different parts of empire. So the Mauryan Empire was too large, and it was not possible to have same and uniform culture throughout the empire. So the different parts of empire had different languages. Like same the way we have today, India is a big country and it has a lot of languages. In the same way, Mauryan Empire had different parts where people spoke different languages. There was a cultural difference in different provinces which were far off from each other. They used to have different preferences for their food, and they used to have different clothing style too. So we can see that this aspect of Mauryan Empire is quite similar to the present day India. So let us see in detail that how our empires are different from kingdoms. So as we saw earlier that an empire is a very big kingdom. Of course, since it is very big, it will require more and more resources for its proper running. So in this way, an empire needs far more resources than a kingdom. It has a far more larger area, of course. Important point is it requires big armies for the protection. So if an empire would be too large, the king would need a big army to protect the borders of the empire. So the main function of an empire and the main policy of the king used to be the protection of the borders. And of course, for the proper resources of the empire, more and more officials would be needed who can collect taxes from traders, farmers and common men so as to run the empire in a proper way. And these officials are employed in a large number, and they collected taxes on a regular basis in the same way like the modern times. Apart from the taxes, there also used to be tributes, which were not actually regular, and such tributes were mainly provided by the people who lived in tribes to the emperors. Sometimes they did such tributes from their own intentions, and sometimes such tributes were forced on the tribal people in return for the protection, in return for the safety of the tribal area. Now let us see a few things about ruling the empire. So as we have discussed earlier that the empire was too large, and different parts of this large empire were ruled differently, because it was not really possible to rule the whole empire with same set of protocols, because the large empire had different cultures and people had different traditions. So the laws were not uniform throughout the empire. There was some less or more difference when ruling of the empire was concerned. So the different parts of this large empire were ruled differently. Areas around Patliputra were under the direct control of the emperor. So Patliputra was the capital city of Mauryan Empire. The emperor of the Mauryan Empire used to reside at Patliputra, and the areas that were close to Patliputra or were under the direct influence of Patliputra, they were seen by the emperor himself. Far off areas were ruled from provincial capitals. So as we discussed earlier that the empire was too large and it was divided into various provinces. Each province had provincial capitals. So the far off areas were ruled from those provincial capitals, and these provincial capitals had governors who were appointed at these provincial capitals, and usually these governors and ministers were from the royal family or some very faithful officials who were close to the emperor. They were sent to these provincial capitals to run the whole empire. They received orders from the emperor from the capital city of Patliputra, and they had directions the way which was explained how the administration has to be carried on. So Ashoka is considered a unique ruler, and let us see the points why historians think that Ashoka was a unique ruler. Of course, he was the most famous ruler of the Mauryan Empire. He was the most influential ruler. In his times, the Mauryan Empire had largest area, and also he did a lot for the spread of peace and Buddhism. So, with respect to these points, we can consider that Ashoka was far more influential than the previous Mauryan rulers. And he was the first ruler who tried to convey his messages to people through inscription. So Ashoka was considered to be the first ruler in the history of the world who tried to convey his messages to his people, to his subjects through inscriptions. Inscriptions were writings on any hard surface, particularly hard surfaces like rocks and metals, and we can find, archaeologists have find the inscriptions of Ashoka to various places, not even in India, but in places which are not in India right now. So that was the influence of Ashoka in his reign. And his inscriptions were written in Prakrit. Prakrit was a language which was the predecessor of Sanskrit. So before Sanskrit came to use, Prakrit was more common. So let us look into the most important event of Ashoka's life, and this was Ashoka's war in Kalinga. Kalinga is an ancient coastal Odisha. The state of Odisha, the coastal part of that state was called Kalinga in ancient times. So the motive of Ashoka's war in Kalinga was to conquer the Kalinga. Also, he won the war. But as the result of this war, Ashoka was so horrified and depressed by the extreme violence and bloodshed that he gave up war and conquest after the war of Kalinga. It is quite unusual because for rulers and kings, wars are a norm. Violence and bloodshed are a norm. But something peculiar or something extraordinary happened in the war of Kalinga, that Ashoka decided to give up war, and he is the only king in the history of world who gave up conquest after winning a war. So this is a very peculiar and special quality of Ashoka, that he is the only king and ruler in the history of world who gave up conquest, who gave up war, who gave up this whole idea of empire expansion after winning a war. Usually kings lost a war, kings used to lose the war and then they got depressed, and then somehow they could be thinking about stopping these war things. But some king like Ashoka, who won the war, still he decided to stop violence and war. So this is something very special about Ashoka, and that is why the title of the chapter is Ashoka the Emperor who gave up war. Actually, after the war of Kalinga, Ashoka started hating war and violence, and he rather started believing in peace and non-violence and love for all human beings and animals. So archaeologists have found a number of inscriptions by Ashoka, and there is a huge record of inscriptions by Ashoka that he used to spread through various parts of the country and abroad. So one of the most important inscription of Ashoka is the one in which he describes the Kalinga war. So these are the important points. Ashoka himself says that 8 years after becoming king, I conquered Kalinga. That is, when Ashoka came to power, came to throne of Mauryan Empire, 8 years after that event, he conquered Kalinga. And in the war of Kalinga, about 1.5 lakhs people were captured. That means they were the war prisoners. About 1.5 lakhs, 1,50,000 people were captured in the war. More than a lakh were killed. 100,000 people were killed in the war of Kalinga. After these happenings, This Ashoka says that this filled me with sorrow. Why? So Ashoka was so depressed watching and witnessing and being the main reason for all this destruction. And he himself says because of lacks of patriotic country-loving people, because the people who were in a position of Ashoka, that is the people of Kalinga, who they were actually loving their country and they did not want an invader to capture them. So they were innocent in a way because they were only protecting their motherland. And these innocent people were killed and they died, they lost their loved ones, people died, soldiers died from both the sides. Ashoka's soldiers also died, they lost their loved ones, families were devastated, societies were destroyed. So Ashoka himself says, that is why I am sad. So as a result of this war of Kalinga, Ashoka says that after all this destruction, I have decided to observe Dhamma. Dhamma is a Prakrit word and it has the same meaning as Dharma. Dharma is a Sanskrit word which means the path of righteousness. That means to follow the path, to act according to what is correct and what is right. So further Ashoka says that now he believes winning people with Dhamma. That means he wants to give up the war, he does not want to wage more war, he does not want to expand the borders of his empire, and he believes that war are not necessary to win over people. In fact, winning people with dharma is his priority now, and he is not going to use violence to expand his influence. Ashoka further says that I am inscribing this message. That means the purpose of this inscription is that Ashoka wants his sons and grandsons to follow the path of Dhamma instead of violence or war. That means Ashoka wants that his future generation does not follow the path of violence and wars, and Ashoka rejected this whole idea of empire expansion. Instead, he believed in peace and dharma. So now let us look some points about what does Ashoka means by dharma. So what is exactly Ashoka's dharma? So Ashoka's dharma is mainly inspired by the teachings of Lord Buddha, and the main idea of Ashoka's dharma is the idea of non-violence and love for each other, love for human beings and love for animals, and that is why according to the Ashoka's dharma, the sacrifices were prohibited, the sacrifices that were done in the name of God, in the name of pleasing God. So Ashoka prohibited all such sacrifices. Instead, in the place of all these things, he rather spread the idea of compassion, and Ashoka spread his messages of dharma to various countries also, like Syria, Egypt, Sri Lanka and many other countries. And Ashoka also appointed dharma ministers, which were called Mahamats, to spread the idea of non-violence and peace and dharma. So this is all about this chapter about Ashoka the emperor who gave up war. So we got some idea about this chapter. So that's all for this chapter. Have a nice day.